All right. So I am part of I'm part of a number of different groups, and there's an email group or a group that's on the internet for oncologists that communicate with each other. And they'll, you can post questions, and I think I've posted two questions. One, we had a patient that, had some unusual circumstances, and you can post these things and get feedback from, it's like peer, but they also have a team of sort of quote unquote experts who guide you. And so, it's sort of an amalgam of those two aspects. It's usually not bad, but I just thought an email came across this morning, and they tell you the subject headers, and then if you're interested, you look it up. And this one caught my eye because it's near and dear to what we do. And so what it says is, how do you clearly communicate to patients that the main purpose of a phase 1 trial is to find the best dose of a new drug with the fewest side effects, rather than treating the patient's cancer? And I just thought that was like, well, no, like everything that we do stands in opposition of that. And, and again, I don't know, it may not be anonymous, but at least I don't see who's posting these. And so, from my perspective, we've talked about sort of last week, is this like someone who's ready to retire, who doesn't realize that phase 1s have changed, or that sort of thing? Or is it someone new who's being taught that this is the way it is, and why don't patients understand this? So what was interesting was the response from the expert, who said, who actually didn't handle it badly, although there was a few things in there that I thought were kind of interesting. They didn't answer the question, but he said, just with any communication, check first to see what their understanding is. Then see if they're ready to hear what you have to say. Say it, and then have them repeat it. When discussing trials, this conversation occurs over more than once. At the first conversation, one may trying to lay out the options that you can offer them, either instead of or including the trial. First, start by asking what they know. And then in quotes, so tell me, what have you looked up online? Or what did this referring doctor, in quotes, tell you about the therapy options, right? And so right away, I mean, there, although not specifically, but somewhat, covertly, I'd say, lessening the role of folks that are finding things online, or folks like us who are referring patients to clinical trials. They go on, let me lay out the options that I can treat you with, which we know are just standard options. Okay. And then they say, we talk about standard options, and this is what we do, and this is what cancer patients should be treated with, and all of it's malarkey. What was really kind of the take-home point that was quite upsetting to me was actually a post by someone else. Because again, they don't really say what to do, or that trials are bad or good or anything like that. So, okay. But then there was a doctor who posted on this. I won't say who the doctor is or where they came from, but I will look up to see who this doctor is afterwards. A patient of mine, this is what they posted. A patient of mine traveled to a famous medical center and met with a famous oncologist to consider participating in a phase 1 trial. When they returned, I asked them what they had understood, wanting to factor what they heard into my advice for them going forward. They said, the doctor told us the bottom line is, you need a miracle and we need a guinea pig. I think they understood perfectly well, and that's exactly what I tell all of my patients now. And I was like, oh my Lord, right? So, just to briefly respond to these, we obviously stand for the idea that maybe 50 years ago, clinical trials were somewhat like this, but they're not like that today. That drug companies are trying massively hard, and the FDA is too, that really, when I'm designing a clinical trial, helping out a biotech or pharma company, we're trying to minimize the number of patients who would be quote unquote wasted, right? Not getting a pharmacological dose or a real dose of the drug. It's down to very small numbers, like 2. That's sort of, and there's a chance that those 2 will even have a pharmacologically active dose. So, out of a trial of 20 or 30 patients on a phase 1, maybe 2 patients are getting a non-pharmacologically active dose. Everyone else is getting something that's active and could really benefit them. So what I would rather encourage patients and their doctors to do is to look at, is the trial specifically related to who they are? Because what I find dissatisfying is that these trials are set up and the ideas are very specific. We're targeting ALK, we're targeting BRAF, we're targeting whatever the enzyme or whatever the drug is supposed to do. There's a certain patient population whose chances are much higher of benefiting from that drug. But because of the way the world works, we kind of dumb it down into well, anyone can get this drug, just toss a bunch of people on it and see what happens. That's not the way it should happen. So rather than saying that a phase 1 and dismissing it and saying that it's just for guinea pigs, no. Find out, is the drug, is there a good reason why the drug should be connected to this patient's cancer through next-gen sequencing, for example? And if it's true, get on the trial. So